The end is not in sight. It is very difficult to predict the outcome of a war. For example, at the beginning of the war, Russia had the advantage. It seized two regions, as Zaporizhzhia and Kherson in the south of Ukraine. But very quickly, the Ukrainians stopped and forced the Russians to withdraw from attacks on Kiev, Kharkiv, and Odessa, the three largest cities in Ukraine. Since then, Russia has temporarily scaled back some of its objectives, focusing more on eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainians, though, are preparing counteroffensives in the south and are now attacking across Crimea, an area that Russians thought had been secure.
The United States is also now warning of intensified attacks against civilian and government targets as Ukraine marks this anniversary, but also its Independence Day. What could possibly happen next, and how much credibility should we be giving those reports and suggestions?
Well, it is likely that Russia will undertake some kind of attack. For example, there is a report now in the last hour or two of heavy shelling in Kharkiv, but it doesn't appear that Russia is in a position to make an advance, to thrust forward in any of its positions. So I'm sure that the Ukrainians will respond to what Russia does, but it doesn't look like this is going to be something that will affect the outcome of the fighting.
Good morning, sir. I would like to ask you from a European perspective, what do you make of that decision from the European Union to grant Ukraine candidate status? Because at the time that was very controversial in Brussels. Do you think that was actually a good decision from the Europeans to tell Ukraine that at one point in the future, despite of how long that might take, Ukraine can actually become a member of the bloc?
Yes, from a political perspective, it sent a strong message to Russia that Europe saw Ukraine as part of Europe's future. And that was likely to happen at some point anyway, because Ukraine has really oriented itself much more toward the West since Russia invaded the first time in 2014, 8 years ago. So while Ukraine still has a number of steps to take to qualify in terms of aligning its regulations, for example, with European Union, it's been a positive step from the standpoint of reassuring Ukraine and signaling to Russia that the West is going to be firm